My wife cheated on me with our neighbor and then forged my signature to steal $250, $0 from our joint account, claiming she was just taking what was ours. Now she's trying to kick me out of our house, and I think she's planning to disappear with everything. Hello, everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here telling a story about how my wife, Lisa, turned out to be nothing like I thought she was. Honestly, I thought we had a good thing going, two professionals, building a life, planning to retire comfortably. But everything changed in just a few days, and looking back, I can see all the signs I ignored or dismissed. The weird late nights, her constant phone calls, the way she'd get defensive whenever I touched her phone or asked about her day. I always figured she was just stressed or maybe hiding some surprise gift for me. Turns out, she was hiding a whole lot. More, it started with little things, missing money here and there from our joint account, small expenses I didn't recognize, but I didn't think much of it. Lisa was always a little secretive about her finances. She'd say she was saving for a shopping spree or covering some bills, but I noticed her spending habits getting more extravagant. She'd come home with new designer bags, jewelry, and expensive clothes. I knew she'd always been a bit materialistic, but I never imagined she'd cheat or steal. She'd always been a little bitchy about money, saying I wasn't generous enough or that I didn't understand what she needed. Looking back, that was just her way of gaslighting me into thinking I was the problem. Then, about a month ago, I started noticing her phone was always nearby, and she was secretive about texts and calls. I'd catch her looking at her phone with a guilty expression, quickly hiding it when I entered the room. One night, I decided to check her messages when she went to the grocery store. I didn't expect to find what I did. There were dozens of texts with our neighbor, Mark. They weren't just casual, "Hey, how are you" kind of messages. They were flirtatious, suggestive, talking about meeting up, sneaking around. I saw pictures, too. Some were of her in bed with him, half naked, with captions like, "Can't wait to see you tonight." My stomach dropped. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I couldn't believe it. Lisa, my wife, was cheating on me with our neighbor. I knew Mark was a bit of a player, but I never thought Lisa would get involved with him. I felt betrayed, furious, and utterly humiliated. I wanted to confront her right then, but I knew I needed to gather more evidence first. I spent the next few days digging through her emails, social media, anything I could find. That's when I discovered she'd forged my signature on some documents and transferred $250, $0 from our joint account into her own. She claimed she was just taking what was ours, but that was a lie. It was theft, plain and simple. She planned to disappear with everything, I was sure of it. When I finally confronted her, she lied her ass off. Said she was just tired of waiting, that she was unhappy, and that Mark made her feel alive again. She called me controlling and jealous, said I was paranoid. She accused me of spying on her because I didn't trust her, like somehow that justified her cheating and stealing. I couldn't believe how she was twisting everything to make herself the victim. I was so angry I could barely breathe. How could she do this to me, to us? All those years we built together, gone in an instant because she decided she wanted some excitement, some thrill with Mark, and apparently she thought she could get away with everything. The emotional toll hit me hard. I felt shock, rage, sadness, sometimes all at once. I'd been by someone I trusted, someone I loved. The betrayal cut deeper than I ever thought possible. I kept asking myself how I missed the signs, how I didn't see her true colors sooner. But I also felt a strange sense of clarity. If she was willing to cheat and steal from me, what else was she capable of? I started questioning everything about our life together, our vows, our promises. I was hurt, but I knew I couldn't let her walk all over me. I had to decide what to do next. I told her I wanted her out of the house, that I wasn't going to be part of this anymore. She threw a tantrum, calling me crazy, saying I was overreacting, that she loved me. But I could see right through her lies. She was planning her escape, I was sure of it. She's been trying to convince me to forgive her, to forget everything, but I can't forget what I saw or what she did. I've started planning my next move, how to get my money back, how to protect myself legally, and how to start over without her. I'm not naive enough to think this will be easy, but I know I deserve better than a cheating, thief wife who lies and manipulates her way through life. That's where I am now, trying to pick up the pieces and figure out what my life should look like without her. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I won't let her destroy me. If anything, this has taught me that trust is fragile, and that sometimes the people closest to you can turn out to be your biggest enemies. I just wish I'd seen the signs sooner, or that she'd been honest from the start. But now I'm focused on reclaiming what's mine and making sure she doesn't get away with everything she's taken or planned to take. After I found out about Lisa's affair and her theft, everything changed. I couldn't look at her the same way anymore. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I loved and trusted, she was a liar, a cheat, and apparently a thief. That realization hit me like a freight train, and for days afterward I felt numb, lost in a fog of anger and disbelief. I kept replaying everything: her sneaky behavior, the late nights, the secret texts, the way she'd get defensive whenever I asked about her whereabouts. It all added up now. She'd been planning her escape for a while, and I was just too blind to see it. I decided I needed to confront her again, face to face, and get some answers. I wanted her to admit everything, to see the truth in her eyes. So I called her into the living room one evening, and I told her I knew about the affair, about the money, everything. Her reaction was a mix of anger and denial, classic Lisa. She started with her usual gaslighting routine, saying I was paranoid, that I was overreacting, that Mark was just a friend, and that I was accusing her of stupid stuff. She called me controlling, said I was accusing her of cheating because I didn't trust her. That was her go-to line whenever she got caught. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I threw the evidence on the table: screenshots of her texts with Mark, the bank statements showing the stolen money, the forged signatures. I watched her face twist in fury, then panic. She started yelling, calling me crazy, possessive, and jealous. She said I was ruining everything, that I was just jealous because she was more successful than me. She insisted she was just having some fun, that Mark was just a distraction, that she'd never cheat or steal if I wasn't so paranoid. Her words didn't match her actions, and I knew she was lying. But hearing her deny everything, seeing her try to manipulate me, it hurt worse than I thought. The emotional impact was brutal. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and deeply hurt. I'd always believed in honesty and loyalty, and now I knew that Lisa had been hiding a whole different person inside. I felt like I'd been played, used, and discarded. It was a crushing blow to my self-esteem. I started questioning everything. Was our marriage even real? Did I ever really know her? The pain was so intense I almost couldn't breathe. I wondered how I'd let myself get so blind, how I missed all the red flags all those years. But underneath all that pain, something else was stirring: anger. Pure, boiling anger. I realized I wasn't going to let her walk away with everything: her affair, her theft, her lies. I decided I had to fight back, to protect what was mine. I contacted a lawyer that night, started looking into my legal options. I knew I could take her to court over the forged signatures, the stolen money. I also needed to figure out her next move, because I was convinced she was planning to disappear. I wasn't going to let her do that, not without a fight. The next few days were a whirlwind. I hired a private investigator to track her movements, just to confirm my suspicions. I wanted to see if she was planning to leave town, maybe with the money or even with Mark. Sure enough, I found out she'd been secretly meeting with a moving company, discussing how to empty the house quickly. She'd been making arrangements to get rid of her things, to vanish. That was the confirmation I needed. She was planning to run, probably with the money, probably with Mark. I felt a mix of disgust and resolve. If she thought she could just cheat and steal her way out of this, she was dead wrong. I started preparing myself mentally and practically. I changed the locks, contacted the bank to freeze her accounts, and began documenting everything: photos, messages, bank statements. I wanted a paper trail, proof that she was guilty of everything she'd done. I also reached out to some friends and family, told them what was happening, and asked for support. I knew I'd need allies in this fight. The betrayal cut so deep that I couldn't trust her anymore, but I could trust the people who cared about me. Looking back now, I realize how naive I was to trust her so blindly. For years, I thought we had a good life, a partnership. But underneath it all, Lisa was just waiting for her moment to strike. I should have seen the signs, but I was too comfortable, too in love to notice how hollow everything had become. Now I'm trying to piece myself back together to figure out what's next. I know she's dangerous, and I can't let her get away with this. I've got to be smart, patient, and relentless. The fight isn't over yet, but I'm ready to see it through. The days that followed felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I was caught between fury and heartbreak, trying to keep my head clear while everything around me was crumbling. I'd always known Lisa was a little bitchy, but I never imagined she'd turn into this manipulative, sneaky person capable of stealing $500,000 and cheating on me with Mark. It was like discovering she had a whole other life, one I never knew existed. And the worst part, she was trying to spin it all around, making herself out to be the victim, crying about how controlling I was or how I just didn't understand her needs. I decided I had to take control of the situation before she managed to pull any more fast ones. I met with my lawyer, a no-nonsense woman named Susan, who laid out my options. Turns out, forging my signature and stealing that kind of money was pretty clear-cut. We could go after her legally, get a restraining order, and freeze her assets. I also hired a private investigator to keep tabs on her, just to confirm her plans. Sure enough, the pie caught her sneaking out of the house late at night, meeting with movers and making arrangements to leave town. She was trying to disappear with everything, her clothes, her jewelry, even the furniture. It was all planned, and I was the last to know. One night I found her trying to pack her bags. She was acting frantic, like she knew she'd been caught and was desperately trying to cover her tracks. When I confronted her, she threw a fit. Said I was overreacting, that she was just trying to start fresh, and that I was a controlling asshole who didn't appreciate her. She looked at me with those cold, bitchy eyes and said, "You're just jealous because Mark and I are happy now. You're too stupid to see how much I've suffered with you." That hit me like a punch to the gut. She really believed her own bullshit. I stood there, watching her try to gaslight me again, and I realized I couldn't let her keep lying. I told her she wasn't going anywhere, that I'd call the cops if she tried to leave. I also made it clear I wasn't going to let her steal from me or run off with Mark and the money. I contacted the police and explained everything, her forging my signature, the theft, her plans to leave town. They took my statement, and I could see the wheels turning in their heads. I was finally taking concrete steps to stop her. I felt a strange mix of relief and dread. Relief that I was finally fighting back, and dread that this was just the beginning of an even uglier fight. Meanwhile, Lisa kept up her act, crying and screaming, trying to make me feel guilty. She kept lying about how she was just tired, how she needed space, and how I was just paranoid. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I knew her game. She was a master manipulator, and I'd fallen for her shit for too long. Now I was determined to expose her lies and get everything back: my money, my house, my dignity. I also started looking into legal action for the theft and forgery, knowing I had a solid case. I wanted her to pay for what she did, not just emotionally but financially too. The hardest part was the emotional toll. I felt betrayed on every level by her, by the woman I thought I married, by the woman I loved. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I didn't see that she was planning this all along. I'd been so blind, so trusting. But now I was trying to be strong. I realized I had to protect myself physically and legally. I started documenting everything: screenshots, bank statements, her lies, her attempts to escape. I wanted to build a case, not just in court but also in my own mind, to remind myself that I hadn't done anything wrong, that I was the victim here. One thing I learned is that people like Lisa don't change. They just find new ways to manipulate, to lie, to steal. I also learned that you can't stay passive in a situation like this. If I'd kept quiet, she'd have gotten away with everything, probably even with Mark, leaving me with nothing. That's why I decided to fight. Not just for the money, but for my sanity, my dignity, and my future. I refuse to let her destroy me or walk away with everything she's stolen. This is far from over, but I'm not giving up. I've got a plan and I'm going to see it through, no matter how much she screams or tries to manipulate me. Sometimes I think about how she lied to everyone, our friends, her family, and how she's probably spinning some story about how I was the bad guy all along. It's infuriating, but I also see the bigger picture now. I see how dangerous she can be when cornered, and I know I have to stay one step ahead. I'm not just fighting for my money or my house. I'm fighting to reclaim my life from a woman who thought she could just cheat, steal, and walk away. That's not happening. Not on my watch. The situation with Lisa was escalating faster than I expected. After I made my move to prevent her from leaving, she went full-on bitch mode. She started turning people against me, telling anyone who would listen that I was crazy, that I was controlling, and that I was just jealous of her success. I heard through the grapevine that she was trying to spin a story about how I'd been abusive or manipulative just to justify her theft and her affair. Honestly, I wasn't surprised. That's her usual tactic: lie, manipulate, gaslight. It's what she's good at. I knew I had to protect myself legally, so I doubled down on everything. I contacted a lawyer again, filed for a restraining order, and made sure all our financial accounts were frozen. I also hired a forensic accountant to go through all her transactions, trying to trace exactly where the money went. Turns out, she'd already transferred a good chunk of it into accounts I didn't even know about. She was planning to hide it somewhere, maybe even send it overseas. I was furious. How could someone I loved turn into such a con artist? Meanwhile, Lisa was trying to dig her claws in deeper. She started showing up at the house, banging on the door, crying, begging me to just listen and give her a chance. She'd scream that I was ruining her life, that I was the reason she had to cheat, that I was holding her hostage. It was all a big act, but it shook me. I'd never seen her so desperate, so manipulative. It made me realize how dangerous she could be when cornered. She's always been bitchy and selfish, but now she was downright reckless. One day she brought her sister over, trying to guilt-trip me into forgiving her. Her sister looked uncomfortable, but Lisa played the victim so well. She told I was abusive, that I was trying to control her, and that she just wanted her freedom. Looked at me with suspicion, but Lisa's tears and fake apologies seemed to sway her. I kept my cool, but inside I was seething. I knew Lisa was lying about everything. She's been lying for years, and now she was trying to manipulate her own family. I also found out she'd been trying to contact Mark behind my back. I caught her sneaking her phone into the bathroom, texting him. I saw her message: "We need to meet tonight. I can't do this without you." That was the moment I knew she was planning her escape for good. I also learned she'd been talking to a shady guy about selling the house for a quick cash deal. She wanted to disappear with everything: my money, the house, her reputation. I couldn't let that happen. I had to act fast. So I set up some surveillance around the house. Nothing intrusive, just enough to catch her in the act. I wanted proof of her plans, proof that she was trying to run away with my money. Sure enough, I caught her loading her car with her clothes and some boxes. She was about to leave, probably with Mark waiting outside. I confronted her again, this time with the evidence in hand. Her face went pale and she started yelling, calling me a monster, a control freak, and jealous. She said she was done, that she'd had enough of my accusations and that she was leaving for good. But I stood my ground. I told her if she left, I'd call the police and I'd make sure she paid for the theft, the forgery, and her infidelity. I wasn't going to let her get away with everything. I also told her that I was going to fight for my rights, for the house, and for my money. She looked at me with pure hatred, then stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind her. I watched her drive off, knowing this was only the beginning of a long battle. That night I sat alone in the quiet house, feeling exhausted but somehow relieved. I'd taken a stand, finally. It was clear Lisa was not the woman I thought she was. She was a manipulative, greedy bitch who'd do anything to get what she wanted. I knew I had to be careful, but I also knew I couldn't let her destroy me. I started planning how to get my money back, how to rebuild my life from this mess. I realized I'd been naive to trust her, but now I was smarter. I'd learned a hard lesson about trust and betrayal. Looking back, I see how much I let her control the narrative for too long. I saw the signs, but I ignored them because I didn't want to believe she was capable of this. Now I'm angry at her lies, her cheating, her theft, but I'm also determined. I've got a lawyer working on the legal case, and I'm gathering all the evidence I need to expose her fully. I know she's dangerous, and I have to stay one step ahead. This isn't just about money anymore. It's about reclaiming my life and dignity from a woman who thought she could lie, cheat, and steal her way out of everything. And I swear I won't let her. The legal process has been I didn't sign up for, but I knew I had no choice. Every day I wake up with a pounding headache from the stress, but I keep pushing forward. I've got my lawyer, Susan, working tirelessly, filing the necessary paperwork and preparing to take Lisa to court for the forgery and theft. The evidence I've gathered, screenshots, bank statements, witness statements, it's all in my favor, but that doesn't make it any easier. Lisa's been doing everything she can to spin her story, calling me a controlling psycho, claiming I've been abusive, and trying to make herself look like the victim. She even went as far as to file a restraining order against me, claiming I was threatening her and that I was dangerous. Of course, it was another lie. I didn't threaten her. I wanted her out of the house and to face the consequences of her actions. But she's good at twisting things, and I knew I had to stay calm and let the legal system do its job. Still, it stung to see her try to manipulate everyone around her, including the courts, into thinking she's the innocent victim here. I've been documenting everything, her calls, her texts, her movements, and I handed all of it over to Susan. Meanwhile, I kept a close eye on her social media just to see if she was planning anything else. Sure enough, she posted a few vague messages about starting over, finding myself, and cutting out the toxic people. I knew she was trying to make herself look like a victim, but I also knew better. She's the one who betrayed me, stole from me, and lied to everyone. I also found out she's been reaching out to Mark, trying to keep their affair alive. She's desperate to keep her secret life hidden, but I had already collected enough evidence to blow her cover. One of the most shocking moments was when I found out she'd been trying to sell the house. She contacted a real estate agent, pretending she was the owner, trying to get a quick cash deal. I confronted her about it, and she broke down crying, saying she was just trying to get out of this nightmare. Yeah, right. That's when I realized her plan was to ditch everything, me, the house, the money, and run off with Mark. That's when I decided I had to take more drastic measures. I contacted the bank and the authorities to freeze all her accounts and prevent her from selling or transferring anything else. I also filed a motion in court to get full control of the house and the money she stole. It was a long shot, but I had to try. I couldn't let her walk away with my life savings, my house, and her lies. I also hired a private investigator to follow her, just to make sure she wasn't planning to leave the country or hide somewhere. Sure enough, she was caught trying to pack her bags again, this time with a fake passport and some cash she'd hidden away. I saw it on the security footage. She was trying to make her escape. That was the moment I knew I had to act fast. I contacted the police, and they came to arrest her for theft, forgery, and attempted flight. She screamed, calling me every name in the book, but I stayed calm. I knew I was doing the right thing. It was surreal watching her get handcuffed, knowing she'd been lying and cheating her way through our marriage. I felt a strange mixture of relief and disgust. Relief because I finally had proof and legal backing, disgust because she'd been so manipulative and selfish. Now I'm waiting for the court date. The whole process has been draining, emotionally, financially, mentally. I've lost a lot of sleep, and I feel like I've aged 10 years in just a few months. But I also feel a sense of clarity. I'm finally taking back control. I've realized how much I trusted her, how much I wanted to believe she was the woman I married. But she proved me wrong. She's a liar, a thief, and a master manipulator who thought she could walk all over me and get away with everything. Not anymore. This whole ordeal has been a brutal wake-up call. I've learned that sometimes the people closest to you can turn out to be the biggest enemies. I've learned that trust is fragile and once broken, it's almost impossible to repair. But I've also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. I'm not giving up. I'm fighting to get my money back, to reclaim my house, and to rebuild my life. Lisa might think she's clever, but I've got enough evidence to put her away for a long time. And I will. I won't let her destroy everything we had, and I won't let her get away with her lies anymore. This is just the beginning of the end for her. Now that everything is finally winding down, I find myself reflecting on the whole nightmare. Honestly, I never thought I'd be the guy who gets like this, cheated on, robbed, manipulated by someone I thought I knew and loved. The worst part is realizing how much trust I gave her, how much I believed in the life we built. Lisa was a master at hiding her true self, and I was too blind or too comfortable to see it. I guess you don't really know someone until they've betrayed you on every level. The legal battles have been exhausting, but I'm glad I stayed the course. My lawyer managed to get a court order that froze her assets and declared her in contempt for attempting to sell the house illegally. The judge awarded me full custody of the house, and I'm finally in the process of reclaiming my life, my money, my property, my peace of mind. It's a long road ahead, but I feel a weight lifting off my shoulders. I've finally taken control of my future. Looking back, I realize how much I overlooked, how her bitchy attitude, her constant complaints about money, her secretive behavior, those were all red flags I dismissed. I let her manipulate me into thinking I was the problem, that I was paranoid or controlling. But now I see clearly. She was the one controlling, lying, stealing, and playing me like a fool. I was just too blind to see it until it was too late. The most painful part of this whole ordeal is knowing she's probably out there somewhere, trying to start over, thinking she's gotten away with everything. But I won't let that happen. I've made sure all her lies are exposed, all her plans thwarted. I've learned that you have to be ruthless when someone betrays you that badly. Trust is a fragile thing, and once broken, it's almost impossible to repair. But I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought, strong enough to stand up, fight back, and rebuild from the wreckage. This experience has changed me. I'm more cautious now, more aware of the signs I once ignored. I won't be naive again. I'll never let anyone manipulate me that way. I've also come to appreciate what truly matters: honesty, loyalty, respect. Those are the things I want in my life, and I refuse to settle for anything less. As I sit here typing this out, I feel a strange sense of closure. I've lost a lot: money, trust, a marriage, but gained clarity and strength. I've learned that sometimes you have to hit rock bottom to realize what's truly important. Now I'm focused on healing, moving forward, and making sure Lisa's lies don't define me. I hope anyone reading this who's going through something similar understands. You're not alone, and you can come out the other side stronger. Trust your instincts, protect yourself, and never underestimate the power of standing up for what's right. I've been through hell, but I'm finally starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel.